folks know John from In Total?
I do.
Maybe we can
Yeah.
call. Yeah, Akash, I don't think you met John, but we can go maybe through short introductions while waiting for Tom.
Sure. I can start. Hi, everyone. My name is Akash, software engineer at Microsoft. Interested in the secure supply chain space. Just wanted to listen in today. And I think I met John briefly at the CNCF tag security meeting. He had some great questions for us. So, thanks, John.
Oh, okay. Then you know each other. Sorry, I missed that part. I wasn't in that meeting, so.
Well, as a part of Testify Sec, we're trying to have the same level of representation that Microsoft had on the Ratify presentation, but it's just the two of us, so we won't quite be as well represented.
So while waiting for Tom, James, do you wanna maybe share kind of your thoughts for next steps on tough? Oh, there is Tom. Okay. Hey, Tom. How are you?
Hello, hello. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Sorry I was late.
Oh, no worries. We are normally all of us late, so we start around this time, so don't feel.
Yeah, no worries. Am I the first on the agenda?
Yes, you are the first on the agenda. Yeah. So
Okay.
once again, like I already introduced you and the agenda, but if you wanna, like, I don't know whether you know the folks on the call. We were going through very brief introductions. I didn't know that John and Akash know each other, but so do you know everybody or do you?
So I know James, and of course I know John, as I work with John. John is my manager.
Yeah.
However, I don't think I've met Akash, and I don't recall meeting David either. Although I could be wrong. But hello, good to meet you both. My name is Tom, and I work at TestifySec. I'm an open source engineer. And if you're happy for me to, Toddy, I can go ahead and sort of rattle through what I was, going to show.
Yeah, maybe just like Akash and David, if you introduce yourself for Tom, and then we can
Yeah,
get started.
that sounds great.
Akash, go ahead.
Sure. Quick reintroduction. Hi, my name is Akash, software engineer at Microsoft, working in the secure supply chain space in Microsoft. Have been contributing to a project called Ratify. That's how I met John through the CNCF tag security meeting where we were presenting there. So just, excited to listen in on your presentation.
I'm David. I work at Docker with James on supply chain and DOI, Docker official images.
Cool, awesome. Well, good to meet you both. And hopefully this will be of interest to you guys. I think particularly I'd be interested like in your thoughts, Akash, given your involvement with Ratify. But there's not a huge amount to show, but hopefully it will be of some interest to you guys. So I will share my screen. If you can see my screen, okay? Yep. So
Yeah.
I'll go ahead quickly and do a quick introduction for those of you that are not aware. Inside of the Intoto project, there's a sub project which I'm a maintainer of. It's called Witness. So the whole idea behind Witness is that we provide an easy interface for people to create and sign Intoto attestations throughout their supply chains. Primarily, it's comes in the form of a CLI tool, which is called Witness. It's the Witness repository, but also there is a Go library called Go Witness with the intention for this being used to integrate with your tooling. So, for example, if Ratify wish to along the line, they could use the Go Witness library to perform verification of attestations. using GoWitness, and for like CI pipeline tooling and that sort of thing, they could integrate in Toto in Toto implementation into their toolings by using GoWitness. Witness has a concept of attesters. So rather than requiring users to fashion their own predicates, we have an attesters interface, which essentially we're thinking about changing some of the naming, but essentially collectors of metadata for specific functions. So for example, Witness's primary function, especially in the CLI tool, which I'll quickly go back to, is to create. Let me see if I can I minimize this? Oh, I'll just leave it. I'll move it to the bottom. Yeah, there we go. To create attestations for the command being run. So if I quickly see this demo, you should be able to see, and I'll go over this in a second. When I look at the envelope types, you can wrap the command being executed for a specific step with Witness. So you can create an attestation which attests to the command that was run in that particular step. But we have also other attesters which do all number of different things, like creating attestations on the state of Git, creating attestations on the environment it's been running in. For example, if it's running in a GCP environment, it's able to go to get the GCP workload. I think it's workload identity, the GCP ID for the environment it's running in, and attest to that, so you can have verifiable proof that it's running in GCP, and the same for AWS, etc. For which there's many different sort of use cases or different attesters that we could make along the line. We're in progress of trying to expand that number. So as I mentioned, Witness is a sub-project of Intoto, so it's part of the Intoto organization. However, one sort of struggle that I came across while using other toolings for generating both signatures and attestations is the struggle of differing ways to essentially unwrap and inspect the predicates. Of course, this is something that with the Intoto framework aims to try and solve. For instance, with Intoto layouts, and also importantly Intoto statements, so that a lot of the sort of the metadata wrapped around the predicate is consistent. However, one big sort of difference that I found still was the difference in the use of envelope types. So for those unfamiliar, I will defer to Google to tell me where this repository lives. But DISI is one example way of creating an envelope. An envelope is just a way of wrapping up a predicate and attaching a signature to it. At least that's, in my head, the easiest way to explain it. This is one way of doing that. And of course, the Notary project uses the COS envelope type, which is the CBOR object signing and encryption method envelope type. And I believe there's JWS as well. I think Notary supports both of those. So why is this a problem if the envelope types are different? Well, of course, there are many different toolings that exist for both creating and verifying envelopes or attestations, which in its simplest form, when the verifier receives it, is an envelope. And if there are different envelope types and those verifiers don't support all of those envelope types, that verification logic is going to just basically throw up and say, I can't verify this because I can't grok it or understand it. So less of a problem on the signing portion. The way that you wrap it up and sign it could be multitude of different ways, but verifiers need to be able to consistently understand all the different envelope types, and indeed inside of that, like the statement types and predicate types that are contained. And what I wanted to know was, at least as far as GoWitness is concerned, is how much effort is it to have like these envelope types exist side by side? Maybe there's a use case in which a user might prefer to use a COS envelope type rather than rather than a DISI type. At least that means that if they wish to use witness, let's say that they're a notary user and they want to create in-toto attestations, they get to at least use witness and get to have a consistent envelope type for any verification logic they have along the line. So as a sort of a little bit of an experiment, but also a sort of a thought experiment slash like small implementation experiment, I wanted to see how hard this would be to implement inside of Go Witness. So in my IDE, I have the Go Witness repository opened, and I started by basically defining an interface for the envelope. So of course, like in its simplest form at the moment, I wanted to mainly be able to do three things with this interface. I want to be able to sign, verify, and get the content back. The content being a payload type, a payload, and signatures. I believe at this point in time, this is not implemented. I will, I caveated and said this was like a first implementation, but then inside of that, I can implement whichever envelope type I wish. Of course, inside of Go Witness in its default form, using a DISI envelope is the standard practice. You might notice a few sort of like warts in the implementation inside of the envelope struct. There is an envelope field. Try not to worry too much about this. But I can define a new envelope, sign it, etc. And jobs are good. But also I've added another implementation of the interface for COS. So I believe my usage for creating this was through the repository. Let's see if I can get this out, which I called upon the that's not working. I called upon the Verizon COS. See, that's not what I'm looking for. No, I can't find it. I was trying to but anyway, this is the library that I found the Notary project to be using. There we go. And the usage of it was okay, I would say. I tried my best to look upon the Notary project logic and how you guys perform signing with this library in order to do it correctly. So if you can see my sign function, I would say there was some of I think what the struggles that I had were basically understanding the encrypted and the unencrypted headers. That was quite a confusing thing for me to try and understand. Let me see if I can find. This is all available in a branch for me to share with you guys at a later point. Just trying to make sure that it was mainly the protected headers and the unprotected headers and how to use those. As you can see, what I've actually gone and implemented is quite simple. I think as well, another thing that I really didn't understand is the difference between a sign one message. And I believe that there's another way of signing that isn't sign one message dot sign. These are the sort of things that I think, from what I know, you have to look quite closely at the specification for COS in order to understand properly. But yeah, after finishing, I'll show you the result that I got. If I just quickly clear. If I run this, so I'm running a witness, I'm running go run, but this is just running witness run, which, as I mentioned, wraps a build command. In this case, I'm just echoing hello to test.txt. I'm then taking this envelope, specifying the envelope type to be COS. I'm defining the step to be called test. This is just so in the predicate of what witness creates. Witness creates sort of an outer predicate for all of the predicates of the attesters that run, which you'll see in a moment, which is called a witness collection. And using the -s command, I'm defining the test. I'm defining that this step is called the test step. And so that is specified in the collection and outputting it to JSON. And I've got a private key locally that I'm going to use to sign this attestation. So if I run this, you'll see that it should run without any problems. I'm running a few attesters here. These are the default ones that Witness runs with, the environment attester and the Git attester. I think we'll also see the material, command run, and product attesters for the purpose of this demonstration. These don't matter. If you're interested, please have a look at our docs pages to sort of look at this a bit more. But if I then go and cat the output, which I set to be test JSON, you'll see that I've got a COS envelope, which I can then push to wherever I want. We have another project to store attestations, which is called Archivista, which is it's a simple it stores all of the attestations in an S3 backend, but there's a bunch of different backends that you can configure it for, and then breaks apart the attestations predicates into a GraphQL database so that they can be queryable, so that people can verify their artifacts in a sane manner. At this moment, I wouldn't be able to, I believe. I think I'd be able to probably upload. No, I probably wouldn't. I'm not sure. I might be able to upload the COS envelope to Archivista, but I certainly wouldn't be able to verify it at this current moment in time with Witness. I didn't get as far as that. But in terms of what's important, which I think is to say, like, understanding whether I've done this correct. I mentioned the sign one message function. Going through the COS library, it was a little unclear as to what the correct functions were to use to sign inside of the library. But also with these protected and unprotected headers, trying to ascertain whether I've used the library correctly to add to these headers or not seemed a little bit tricky to me. And I think I finished working on this around Christmas time. And I left it in a state where I wasn't sure if what I'd done was exactly correct. So please, if you're interested, please look at the code and tell me whether or not I've done it correctly. Hopefully I have. Which brings me on the whole comment of not being sure as to whether I've implemented correctly. So there are many different tools out there that do, in a roundabout way, the same thing, which is signing and verifying things, and carrying out that process of signing in all number of different ways. The technologies that I can think of off the top of my head or the tools rather, are Cosign and Sigstore, Notary, of course. There's Intoto. There's Intoto Golang, which is the implementation of Intoto. There's also the Witness project, and there's a bunch of other different toolings. And where I think there is an opportunity for improvement in the ecosystem is by sharing having a shared place for all of the signing and verifying logic to exist. At the end of the day, like, a signer that uses a set of keys to sign some data is the same from Cosign to Witness to Notary. And being able to especially on the verification side, being able to verify a DISI envelope and a COSE envelope, each of these tools, in my opinion, probably should be able to do this. That way, every attestation signature that's generated, doesn't matter what tool it comes from, it can be verified by disparate tooling. And this becomes, in my opinion, even more important when cloud providers start adding native integrations for verifying this metadata on their platforms, because users don't have a choice of whether a user using AWS Lambda can't run a admission controller like Ratify if they wish to. If it's a COSI envelope, they have to take what AWS supplies them. And for that reason, an initiative is in the process of trying to be moved forward to converge all of these implementations for the signer verifier interfaces into the Go Secure Systems Lib repository. So Secure Systems Lab is an open source initiative for creating sane ways of doing cryptography for open source. And yeah, where Intoto is looking to converge all of its interfaces and implementations of that into this repository. And there's effort going on to bring the Sigstore folks in. And yeah, it would be, I think, very helpful if we could get the same collaboration from the Notary project. That way, rather than wondering whether or not I've implemented the COS envelope correctly, the correct subject matter experts from the area of COSI can work with me to make sure that any changes I've made are sane, and we're working together on ensuring that everything that we're creating is verifiable everywhere. But yeah, that's just about it. That's all I really have. And please, if you've got any questions, just let me know.
Thanks, Tom. Actually, that's great demo. And any questions for Tom? I do have some, but Akash, any thoughts on your side, or David and James?
No, thanks for presenting. This is very helpful. I had briefly started taking a look at this as well because we came to the similar conclusion on the ratify side. If we wanted to support verifying the in toto attestations, we wanted to support both our existing cosign verifier as well as our notary project verifier. So no, this is great to see that it seems like it is possible. Do you happen to have like a example of like a published example of this pushed to some registry or something that we could kind of inspect the contents of the blob and see what it looks like? I'm just curious what the structure looks like with the
Sorry, what are you asking in terms of like a push to a registry? Do you mean the attestation in the COS envelope?
Yeah, the
so,
attestation. Yeah.
So I don't. However, what I can do is there is a branch that exists. What I can do is, of course, I'll share information on the necessary branches. Of course, given that it's split between Witness and Go Witness library, it's two repositories, but that shouldn't be a massive issue. But what I could do also is in that branch, I can push an example attestation to that repository so you can inspect it.
Yeah, that would be very helpful. Thank you.
If you don't mind, in terms of the Ratify project, do you have the capability in the project in the project to verify both DISI and COS envelopes? And if so, like what? Yeah, do you just have your own logic internally, like internally to the repo to handle that, or do you more like try and inspect it to look at the attestation as whether it's come from cosign or a different tooling, and then use their libraries in order to do that?
Yeah, so at this point, we don't have any support for attestations as it is. So this is just purely exploratory, but we support the signature types. So for image integrity verification scenarios, so we just currently invoke the cosign or notary project libraries to do that. So moving forward, we would need to do that kind of breaking down of the attestation to grab the signature, determine the signature type, and then figure out the verification for that attestation as well.
Yeah, so like that's for, I think the aim of Go Secure Systems Lib is to remove that like cognitive overhead for you guys. Like what we would like to get to a point with is that a tool like Ratify, rather than trying to look and dig into each of these projects implementations of the verification logic, go, okay, no, like at the end of the day, this is just a DISI envelope that contains an in toto statement, which inside of it has a predicate of some type that we know those technologies, or maybe you don't so much, but Go Secure Systems Lib does. You can pass that to you could use the interfaces, and that drastically removes the amount of cognitive overhead that you guys need to have in order to support the disparate implementations.
No, that makes a lot of sense. And I think that'd be very helpful from our side too, because we already struggle with maintaining parity and implementation between, cosign and notary project, handling, especially on the cosign side, handling like a custom implementation that we have in order to get it to work with some of our existing integrations.
Because someone else on this call might tell me that I'm wrong, but as far as I know, like a cosign signature is just a Red Hat simple signature in a DISI envelope, and cosign attest puts a predicate into an in toto statement. So like what's going on around the place isn't all like terribly different from one another. It's relatively the same. And I think like therefore trying to like get get a library that can handle that same but difference would be really useful. And the same with Notary. Like I believe there's plans for Notary to support signing attestations within Toto. The same goes. Like if it's an in toto statement wrapped as a COS envelope rather than a DISI envelope, then like that's not really a huge difference. But when it becomes the problem of a maintainer of a repository like Ratify, that's quite a lot of cognitive overhead for you guys to have to handle and a lot of different implementation details for you to manage. If we get the right people in a governance structure instead of Go Secure Systems Lib, you're depending on the right people's logic for helping you do that verification. And the same, hopefully, fingers crossed, would go for those like managed cloud providers that would have implementations themselves in the future. Yeah, thanks. Anyone else have any questions for me that want to ask?
Yeah, and I have more question about in general in Toto. So what the way that actually in Toto attestations are approached, so everything is wrapped into the envelope and then it is signed together with the signature, right? The way that we've been thinking about this is instead having the actual in Toto attestation in the envelope is to have the attestation in simple text format, let's say, added to the registry, and then signing the descriptor of this artifact from the registry and wrapping that descriptor in the cozy envelope. I kind of want to hear your opinion on this approach and maybe explain a little bit more like why in total wraps everything in the envelope, because this, especially if we think, let's say we're looking right now for the vulnerability predicate in total. That vulnerability predicate can become pretty big content, right? And in order to get the content and verify the signature, you need to pull the whole content down and then verify the signature. If the signature is invalid, you discard the content, right? And if we have these detached signatures to, let's say, the in total attestations, you can just pull the signature. If the signature is invalid, you don't need to pull the full content, as far as like we are looking at this problem. So I just wanted to hear your opinion and maybe John's opinion on the two different approaches.
Yeah, my comment was going to be like in the way that our usage model goes. If you're going to be verifying the signature for an attestation, you're like you're going to be you're always going to be planning on inspecting the predicate every time. So like in my head, like that one network call to take down the attestation makes sense. I guess like what you described with the fact that if you just pull down the signature, then at least you're saving yourself the I guess the packets of pulling down the main predicate, which, as you said, we're aware can get very beefy. What I would add is the in toto specification like doesn't support that. So like the in toto spec has a bunch of guidelines essentially on how attestations should be generated and verified. The specification doesn't support that as a way of doing it. That isn't to say that it wouldn't in the future. But again, like the reason I would say that it would be disadvantageous is that's yet another sort of implementation that would need to be supported by all of the verification tooling, which could be a problem. I'm sure John may have something to say along the lines of your suggestion. So I will be quiet. Unless John doesn't, of course.
And James has his hand up, so James, you want to go first?
Yeah, just to say that this came up internally at Docker as well. And we're going to standardize as far as I know, just on following in toto as it is, because we think the tooling and integration is important. But the idea of being able to put an OCI descriptor inside the DISI envelope is attractive to us as well for basically the same reasons. And it is supported by DSSE.
Yeah.
It's just not supported by in Toto. But we didn't want to bring the artifact resolution, which is in the end the verification flow is going to have to then go grab the attestation as part of that flow. And is that part of in toto verify or witness verify, or are we saying, you know what, that's just got nothing to do with this anymore, and it's your native tools have to deal with that. So there's a whole bunch of stuff for the ecosystem to work out if we decide to do that. Every single repository type is going to have support for these this resolution.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
maybe
I
go ahead, John. Sorry.
so I was gonna say, I think that the limitation is probably mostly a historical thing of just like when we first started creating attestations, they never got that large in size. We've generated a few like a full trace enabled witness run of a Linux kernel build, and you end up with a 800 megabyte attestation. We've definitely heard of other folks doing similar type processes where they end up gigabytes in size as far as attestations. Unfortunately, SBOMs can end up being in, that extreme sort of size as well. And I think the question comes down to how policy verification works, and that's like, what do you do with all of that data? You still have to pull it down at some point, or I think the alternative is, I think you might already be looking at this, trying to use the Sky predicate type. So doing some sort of post-process analysis or something else to generate additional attestations that make property-based claims about the contents of that evidence. And I think that that's going to be a really attractive way to try and bridge the gap between some of these things, and having the original document for forensic analysis later on or other things, just like compliance requirements, is still incredibly valuable.
Yeah, and I actually appreciate that you gave bigger number than the one I was gonna give, but yeah, we have SBOMs that are like few hundred megabytes inside Microsoft, so that will be a nightmare to actually pull it every time and evaluate. One of the things, and coming back to Ratify, what we hit is really these performance issues when you actually try to do too many things at admission control. And we're moving towards idea to have such small attestations that you mentioned, whether it's a Sky, whether it's like the new deployment attestation that was proposed in Toto, such type of attestation that are small size and can be validated pretty fast, and running background processes to go and say, for example, every day, yes, that particular artifact meets the policies for the company as of today.
I think like yeah, in terms of the like the idea of separating the signature from the predicate or the statement itself, in of itself seems like a reasonable sound idea. But like in my opinion, one of the biggest strengths that Intoto has is not necessarily even a technical one. It's a definition of a standard that can be, of a pattern that can be repeated and followed by all. So like answering the question, and like James sort of again like sort of made, in my opinion, a good comment, like, would it be useful to do different things? Absolutely. However, like if you go down the route of what Intoto is proposing, is this the like forever way of doing things? Like hopefully not. Hopefully the Intoto specification will evolve, but what we will get is consistency, at least for now, that we can iterate on, and then everyone can improve with together. And that for me is like the most important thing. And I think if we get there with that, like yeah, we'll start seeing more more sane implementations across the board. One other thing to mention, which might or might not be interesting in terms of like creating small statement like verification statements or small statements for for tools like Ratify to follow is we are in the process of working on a verification attester for witness. So when you do a witness verify, it automatically generates an attestation to say that this was verified at such and such a time with a load of other information. That might be very helpful for, like, you could run this in your CI, you could run this verify in your CI pipeline pre-deployment, and then at deploy time, you could just ensure that this VSA or verification attestation exists. So yeah, worth checking out.
And just to say, that's what we really like in Toto, that there will be these consistencies between the two, and that's so we are just like, that's what is the most compelling part for us. Like, all these things, the hope is that everybody will implement it like as in the same way. That's what, once again, is appealing to us. And so, anything else, folks, for Tom, and any other ideas or questions? So, Tom, as I understand, so you think that the best way to actually go and implement those signers and verifiers will be in the Go Secure library? Or?
Yes, the governance model for the repository, I think, is still being hashed out. And I think that it's really important that for the repository, there's a sort of a shared ownership across different domains in order to get that subject matter expert diversity from the different projects. But yeah, the long-term plan for the Witness project is for all of our signer verify logic. We currently have a DISI envelope structure in our repository. We wish to move that out also to go Secure Systems Lib. And then there's things that you'll get for free, like Cosign has a fantastic KMS implementation. By using Go Secure Systems Lib, provided that Cosign is there, we get that for free. So yeah, that's where we want to go in Toto and with Witness, and we hope with other projects too.
James, go ahead.
That Witness, like a tester that generates a VSA, could you link that?
Yes, I will. I will actually go ahead and link a bunch of different things that I've mentioned.
That would be great, because that's very topical internally right now, and we didn't see that. So that's great.
I'm a huge fan of the implementation of essentially wrapping a witness run around a witness verify is what it does.
Yeah, that's very cool.
And Tom, you mentioned that you have this code that you showed available in a branch. Would you mind sharing that?
Yeah, I will do. I don't know where would be the right, because I was going to put it in the Zoom chat. I feel that that's really unhelpful because it will die when the call ends. Where's the best place for me to?
I will copy to the meeting notes. So if you put it in the chat, I'll take it and I'll copy it in the meeting notes. So Akash, thoughts on that? And I think one of the things, so I really like the idea that Tom and I really want us to go to something standard. I don't know, at least on Notary project side, who will be the best person to provide the or be the subject matter expert on the COSI signatures. And I think we have, I believe Shiwei is on the COSI side. I don't know whether Shiwei did the JWS stuff. The question that I may have also for Tom and John is AWS, and they are not on the call, they use JWS as an envelope, which means that eventually we need to have also this implemented in this common library.
I think I don't know much about JWS and why you would opt for it over COAS, but like I think, in my opinion, provided projects have made their reasons to generate attestations using those those ways of those envelope types, provided that they're sane implementations and they are like secure and safe to use. I think it is in the interest of libraries like Go Secure Systems Lib in the fullness of time to support them. But yeah, like I guess it's all a matter of collaborating, so that we can get same thing as Coast, like a sane implementation.
So just on that, isn't the main reason that DSSC exists as it is in its simplest form to get away from the complexities and issues with things like JWS? That's my understanding.
Yeah,
so it would be a bit odd if that ended up in the same library.
So I guess, well, it wouldn't be in the same repository, more just like inside the same organization. I think what I've seen historically is different projects having very strong opinions on the envelope type to use and the reasons why. And like, while I understand, like, again, like different tools want to do things in different ways, and that's a really good thing. However, and again, like, I'm really glad that Akash is on the call. I feel like for an individual like Akash, trying to like make sense of all of these different implementations for the sake of the design decisions made for each tool is just like an impossible process. And in fact, like the in-toto specification specifies that the preferred envelope type is DISI, but it doesn't say that you have to use DISI. So by using COSI, like you're not breaking the specification. If that's the case, there needs to be somewhere that those and others can be easily leveraged. So like I completely see the point, but like I'm quite strong on the opinion that if we don't get like consistency or a common library for being able to leverage that stuff, none of it works. And that might be a bit of an extreme statement, but like I think at scale for this to work, there needs to be some common ground, because people do make decisions for the sake of making decisions, and opinions are opinions.
Thanks, John.
Yeah, I think it depends on the particular envelope type, but I think there's an opportunity on the positive side to have a secure by default implementation of certain things. I think we'll have some spirited conversations about what to allow or not allow. If you want to use algorithm equals none, we might have some strong opinions about that. But assuming so many of these different signing and verifying implementations are rolling your own crypto, and they're all over the place. And the more people who try to implement them, the more improper implementations there are. So hopefully, at least with the set of folks who are interested in this, we could have a really strong foundation, I think, for everyone.
When I make changes to our crypto libraries, I wish there were like more people in PRs banging me over the head saying that I was a donut for doing something in a certain way. So like I completely like agree with what John says, that like moving towards a converged place would be awesome, but tricky along the way, but worth it.
So thinking about the let's say the verification experience, right? So when I get the attestation, I need to understand what kind of signature or envelope the attestation uses, right? So there is still kind of does like in total provide this information up front, because I'm trying to understand right now in the form of, let's say, witness or ratify. So when you pull the attestation down, and let's say one attestation is signed with COSI and the next attestation is signed with DZ, right? You need to make that decision on the client and say, I need to verify this with the COSI libraries, I need to verify that with the DZ libraries. Is how easy it will be from this part of the experience. And the other question would be, do customers, so what will be our guidance to customers, let's say, to use only one, or can they mix and match the envelopes in their environment? What are your thoughts on this?
So from a in total layout perspective, I think you would define the functionary, the person who signed each attestation. I think within that area, it would be pretty simple to just add a envelope type or signature type field to help convey that. We've done similar type things there to support verifying full CO-based certificate X509 things versus just a standard key pair versus a cloud KMS. And I think the hard part is going to be helping people understand when they have which tool has generated which attestations signed in which thing. And so that's something we'll have to work out, I think, together. If everybody has complete control over all of the types of attestations they're generating, I would probably always strongly encourage them to only use one format for the sake of simplicity. But every external attestation, GitHub will have their support public soon it's in beta right now, so for their attestation store. They're using this for the NPM provenance, and Homebrew is using it. So like there's a bunch of stuff that's out there that people are going to want to pull in. And we've talked with people already who want to be able to pull all those attestations in and handle them. I think it's something as well that something like Archivista can help with, or some other attestation store being able to index and catalog those things. We graph a lot of that information as it is today, just to make it useful and easier for people to discover and find attestations that are relevant when a policy is verified. And we're also integrating Tough with that as well, so you can have a higher level of trust in the policy. But it won't be easy.
Yeah, the reason I'm asking, because like I look at Ratify and I hear like Tom what he's explaining. What I am thinking as a scenario is like, let's say in my enterprise, I need to get like artifacts from different places. So I need to pull some image from Docker Hub. I need to pull one from NVIDIA, maybe a couple from GHCR, and some on from the Kubernetes registry, right? Each one of those can be signed with a different, like using a different envelope, right? At this kind of ingestion point, I need to be able to verify each one of those before I say, yeah, they are approved for use in my enterprise. And although maybe inside the enterprise, I can go and say, yeah, I will use only one of those, because when I go through the pipeline inside the enterprise, I have full control, but I don't have the full control outside the enterprises. And I should be able to very easily say, like, for this image that I am pulling from Google, I use DZ. From this image that I'm pulling from AWS, I use JWS, and so on. Go ahead, Thomas.
Yeah, like I think in theory, like it seems reasonable to say like, oh, this is the envelope type we use inside of inside of our organization. But there's problems on both ends. There's the end that I've already really like sort of covered, which is like if I'm using any number of managed service, if in some point in the future they provide me with native functionality to verify supply chain metadata, like I probably won't be so lucky as to get like a really detailed implementation that lets me say, oh, like I'll verify this specific type for you. I might not have that liberty. And on the other end, especially coming from the open source, you've got a GitHub repository managed by like some open source maintainers. I think it's already been proven to be hard enough to get them to produce useful, reliable metadata as it is, let alone even just like plain old simple signatures. So like trying to like ask them if they don't already. So, oh, could you also generate your attestations with this way, with this envelope type? I think a lot of repositories will tell you to just go away. And it's just like way like so I did a consulting job where again we had like somewhat the same like issue, and I actually ended up making a tool that would sign things three different it would do the signing mechanism three times for three different technologies that had three slightly different ways of signing and uploading the metadata. And like I wasn't proud of it, like it I hated doing it, but really it was the only way at that current moment in time to get anything to be towards usable. And like yeah, that like the same that the same goes for an open source repository. If we're so lucky that they generate good, solid, well inspectable metadata, it shouldn't matter the way that they've done it. We should be able to use tooling to verify it. So like I think it's a nice idea in theory to say, okay, we're gonna use this type, but yeah, I think we need to have versatility.
I totally agree with that because yeah, we will, and you will always have some snowflakes. So even if we say like we can verify DC COSI JWS or like OpenPubKey or whatever else, then there will be somebody who will come up in a couple of years and say, no, all these formats are like they're not good. I'll make my own.
You can only do what you can though.
Yeah. But I like your example with signing in three different ways. So I already see that like even happening, and I say, oh, I'll sign with this and this because this tool supports only this, and that tool supports only that.
I didn't like it, and I think at one point I posted like some questions in the cosign Slack, and someone was asking me why I was asking the questions, and it's like I'm writing this tool that, and they're like, "Oh my god, that's so exciting! Like, when are you going to release it?" And I was like, "I don't want to release it." I just think when someone wants to generate some metadata, they can just sign it with a key, and then we can all go home. But yeah, needs must.
Yeah. Well, we have 5 minutes left, Tom. Thank you very much for coming here and kind of having that. And you are always actually welcome to jump on the call and complain or ask and provide suggestions. We are also like looking for any suggestions for improvements, what we can do, and of course,
yeah, I hope. Yeah, I hope I didn't come across as moaning. It wasn't my intention. I'll add the call to my calendar, and yeah, in terms of you guys wanting to leverage in Toto in any way, like I'll endeavor to try and get on this call to try and help out in any way I can in the future.
Yeah, we certainly want actually to start producing and signing attestations, and we'll be looking maybe in the second half of the year to start doing that. So your advice here will be very valuable. Folks, anything else for today? James, David, Akash, John?
Just one note, Tom, you mentioned the deployment attestation. We're very, very interested in that. So I might reach out to you separately with some questions and concerns we've come up and see how you're approaching it as well.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, absolutely not a problem.
Yeah. Akash, keep in mind that Tom, you are in UK, right? So we have like 8 hours difference. So yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Keep that.
Yeah. Try to get me in the mornings.
After. Yep. Okay, thank you, folks. Appreciate it, and have a nice day.
Thanks everyone.